What's your name?
Name is Austin Roth.
Where'd you grow up, Austin?
Grew up in Weiser, Idaho.
What was your experience growing up in Weiser, Idaho? Was it pretty rural?
Experience was really good. It's a small town. Kind of had, like to say I had free reign, but it was just a really good town to grow up in. Got to run around town. Parents lived out in the county, so we were all over down by the river growing up. Kind of just all over riding four-wheelers outside the whole time.
So you had a kind of a country kid upbringing, then, you would say?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. When you were growing up over there, did you get into rodeo immediately, or is it something you kind of developed into when you were in your older age, like middle school, high school?
So rodeo for me, when I was growing up, my dad rode bulls. I was real young, probably 3-4 years old, and my dad rodeoed. He rode bulls. Kind of got into mutton busting and stuff like that. And when he stopped rodeoing, that's kind of when I stopped, and we just got away from it as a family. And growing up, I played a lot of sports: baseball, football, wrestling, ran track a little bit in middle school days. But once I got to high school, I hyper-focused on baseball. Baseball was kind of my first love. Realized that I was halfway decent at it. And so really just focused probably too much of my time on it. School was important because baseball was there.
Right.
But kind of just did the bare minimum to get by with schooling, but it was because that's all I had to do to get to baseball and to compete in baseball. And so I didn't really get into rodeo until after high school. I was about 20 years old when I started rodeoing. Story kind of behind that is I was looking to go play baseball in college, and I was playing on a summer ball team and talking to some college coaches and things like that. And I was up in Lewiston, Idaho. We had a big tournament up there, and I was pitching, and there was a sharp pain in my shoulder. And I was like, I don't know, that doesn't feel right. Kind of kept going at it, thinking that, it's just did something weird. It'll get fixed, right? It'll just go away on its own, just sore maybe. It never went away, and so I ended up going to the doctor, and they were like, "Yeah, you tore the growth plate in your arm, in your shoulder." And
Oh, wow.
like, dang. And so I was like, okay, well, I'll rehab it a little bit. Few weeks later, went to go throw a baseball. Couldn't even throw it like from first to second base. And so I went from pitching, throwing upper 80s, lower 90s to like not being able to throw a baseball at all. And so didn't get to go play college baseball, unfortunately. Didn't really know what I was going to do, but I wanted to compete. I'm a very competitive person. And so when I was hanging out with a few of my friends, I had one friend that he rodeoed. Started off with Sour Bronc and then ended up in the Ranch Broncs. And he was like, "You should just come enter a rodeo, get on some Ranch Bronc horses." And I was like, "Yeah, sure. Yeah, that's great. That's exactly what I'd love to do."
Right.
And first horse I got on was actually in Nyssa, Oregon. And I didn't know what to expect. I had like no training at all. They were like, I was putting my chinks on backwards, and
no.
I was like, I don't know where my spurs go, which feet they go on. And so it was kind of funny. So I get on this first horse, and I thought it was bucking hard, really hard. It was not. I was about the middle of the ride, it stopped and just started like loping around in a circle.
No.
And anyway, so I got off this horse and I was like 34 points. No rewrite or anything like that. And I was like, this is awesome. I watched the video back and I was like, oh, man. A lot of people just saw that. It was not good.
Right.
Kind of snowballed from there. And so I entered 2 more rodeos. I ended up going to Idaho City, and I was like, we're going to get on something that actually bucks. This is going to be way more fun. Still had no clue what I was doing. My friend saddled the horse, set a saddle on there, got everything cinched down. I couldn't even put on a bronc halter. I had no clue. And anyway, so I'm all jazzed up because I'm like, oh, I just need to make a ride and I'm gonna win some money here. Like, this is cool.
Right.
And yeah, that was not the case. I was 2 jumped right out of the chute. Like, I was laying on my back in the arena, and I could have reached back and touched the chute. Like, it was that quick. And I was like, oh, maybe this isn't as easy as I thought it was gonna be.
Right.
So I ended up going, I was entered in my hometown rodeo, and I was all excited telling my parents about it. And they were like, "That awesome. We're going to come watch. This is going to be so much fun." And anyway, so I get on this horse and go to nod my head, chute opens up, and the horse just stands there.
Oh, no.
And so I was kind of like, oh, I don't really know what to do in this situation. And there was guys yelling, we're closing the chute, we're closing the chute. So I kind of like relaxed. Just as I relaxed, that horse kind of blew up, turned out into the arena, and it threw me over the front of the horse. Left me in a really bad spot, and I ended up underneath the horse. Horse stepped on my back, and I wasn't wearing any protective vest or anything like that. And I just felt a bunch of crunching in my back, and I couldn't breathe, and so I was just like laying there. And I went to go roll over, and I just felt a bunch of internal popping, and it felt like tearing. And yeah, I was like, oh, that's not good. But I just figured I broke some ribs, but
Right.
I really couldn't, like, I couldn't breathe at all. They were finally like, if you can't stand up and get out of the arena, we're just going to strap you down. We're taking you to the hospital right now. You need to see somebody. And I was like, I'm not going with you, but I can't stop you from taking me at this point.
I'm not going willingly.
Yeah, I was like, I'm at your mercy. I can't really do anything. And so, for whatever reason, they pulled my boots off and my hat. And somebody took my boots and my hat and took it over to my mom and gave them to my mom. My mom thought I was dead at that point. She was like, this is the first time I've ever seen him ride. This is the first time I've ever...
Yeah.
Like, because she wasn't really around rodeo. And so she didn't quite understand. And she was like, I just saw my son get loaded up in the ambulance. Somebody brought me his boots and his hat.
Yeah.
And I laugh about it to this day. I don't think she still does.
Yeah, I'm sure she's not laughing.
No. And so, yeah, we get to the hospital and everything, and I was like, I just broke some ribs. Not a big deal, right? They throw me into the CAT scan, get an MRI, all this stuff done. And I was like, seems like kind of a lot for broken ribs.
Yeah.
And anyways, they start putting drugs in me and stuff like that. You go, so, yeah, no, it's a little bit worse than broken ribs. They're like, you fractured 3 or 4 ribs, bruised your liver, collapsed your lung, you have a bunch of internal bleeding. They're like, we need to life flight you right now.
Yeah.
And my mom's sitting over there in the corner, and she's crying. And I'm on a bunch of drugs, so I'm like, oh, I feel fine now,
Yeah.
right? So I'm cracking jokes, and my mom's just, she's going through it over there in the corner, and she's like, this isn't as funny as you think it is right now. Like, this is pretty serious. And
This isn't a joke.
right. And so I look at the doctor, and he goes, yeah, no, this is like, if you would have stayed at that rodeo somehow and didn't get onto the ambulance, like 20-30 minutes, you would have been dead. Like, your lung was filling up with blood. This is very, very serious. I was like, oh, okay.
Well, now that you put it that way.
I was like, well, when you put it that way, you know, all right, maybe this is a little serious.
Right.
And he goes, you're going to be fine. And I was like, oh, should have started with that.
Right.
But he's like, we've got to cut you open and put a chest tube inside of you. And I was like, I don't know what that means, but you're going to knock me out, right? And he goes, oh, no, you're going to be fine. I was like, and I don't do well with needles. Like, to this day, I go to the doctor and have to get my blood drawn. I have a nurse hold my hand because I'm like, I don't do needles for whatever reason. And so they're like, no, we can't with the state that you're in right now. We're just going to numb you up really well. You're not going to feel anything. Just turn your head. You're going to be fine. And I was like, oh, geez, even on all these drugs, I'm still like nervous. That's the one thing I'm nervous about is getting a shot. And then because what they do is they cut you open and take this tubing and shove it in between your ribs. And oh, it was awful.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, I'm just going to grit this one out. It's going to be fine. They gave me all the numbing and it was fine. But I was like, every now and again, I was like kind of peeking over to see what they were doing. And there was one of the Lifelike guys. He was like, you like riddles? And I was like, what? He goes, I guess, yeah. And I'm going through it in my head because I don't like getting cut. I don't like needles. And he starts telling me this riddle. And I was like, man, I have no clue. To be completely honest, I don't know the answer to this riddle. And he goes, I'll give you a hint. It's like, at this point, sir, I really don't care to even know the answer. I'm not that invested in it.
Right.
I was like, I just want this to be done.
Yeah.
And anyway, so they get me everything good. They get that chest tube in, and they were like, okay, we're going to life flight you over to Boise. And I still had all those drugs in me, and it's like, came to for just a second. I go, that's like $50,000 to get that helicopter off the pad. And I was like, sobered up real quick. And I was like, oh, geez, this is getting way more expensive than I thought. And luckily somebody perked up and they're like, oh, we can't take him by a helicopter. There's a storm over in Boise, so we're just going to have to take him in the ambulance. And I was like, oh, okay, whatever.
Right.
That sounds way better.
Yeah.
It's not very much cheaper, but it's a little bit cheaper.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, so I spent about, I think I was like 9 days in the ICU.
Wow.
Over there. I couldn't really do much. I mean, I had IV in both arms, that chest tube that it's pretty much like a glorified shop vac. It just pulls out all the blood and fluid from your lung. And so I was just like laying in bed the whole time. I got pretty restless. And so like day 4 or 5, I was like, you know what? I need to go outside. Like, I had a window, but it was like I was looking out the window onto the top of the roof. And so I gathered up. They left a wheelchair in my room. I kind of gathered up somehow. It took me like 30 minutes to get the IVs that were in both arms, the little stands, and the little chest tube machine. over to one side so I could sit down in that wheelchair, and I just started like wheeling myself down the out into the hallway, and it took me probably good 45 minutes to get from the hallway elevator and then just like barely outside into the sunshine.
Right.
And
Little wheelchair rodeo.
yeah, and I was just like, I was just in my underwear. I'm pretty sure I had mismatched socks on.
Right.
And so as soon as that sun hit my skin, I was like, oh, this is nice. So I just kind of sat there for a second and closed my eyes, and I see a cop car go by. I'm like, oh, that's weird. And just kind of went back to doing what I was doing. He then circled back around and he goes, hey, what are you doing out here? And I go, oh, nothing, just getting some air. He goes, you're not supposed to be out here. And just as he said that, nurse, I don't think she was very fond of me. I was, I'd have friends come over and come and see me, and they were like, do you need anything? I was like, yeah, just get me a can of chew.
Right.
That's all I want right now. Just a can of chew. And so they would bring me a can of chew, and they're like, nurses would come in, they're like, you can't do that here. I go, what do you mean? They're like, you just, especially you as a patient, you cannot be doing that right now. All right, whatever. So she would have to tell me that every time she came back in. And she was the one that came out, and she goes, you're not supposed to be out here. What are you doing? You've got all this hospital equipment attached to you. How'd you even get out? And I was like, well, it took me a minute, but I did it myself. And she was like, you need to get back in your room. I was like, all right, well. I just kind of stared at them, waiting for them to like grab the wheelchair. They were like, we'll get going. And I was like, oh, shit.
You're not going to wheel me back?
Yeah, I was like, yeah, a little help would be cool. But anyway, so it took me like 10 minutes to get to the door. And so I think they were tired of waiting. So they started pushing me and hop in the elevator. And this nurse, she's just giving it to me. She's like, you cowboys come in here, think you can do whatever you want. And that's not the way this works. And so she wheels me to my room, and she was like, you need to stay here. Next time you try something like that, we're going to have big issues. And I looked at her and said, ma'am, I thought this was a hospital, not a prison. Right. And she had it at that point. She was like, you know what? I'm not coming back here.
Right.
Somebody else is going to deal with you.
You're someone's problem now.
Yeah. Anyway, so that was kind of the first injury that I had with rodeo. Ended up being fine. Got a nasty scar. Yeah.
So did that injury put any doubt in your mind about participating in rodeo anymore, or did it just kind of fuel you more?
It was scary. I was always, ever since I've been growing up, I've always had this fear of anxiety, like fear of the unknown, don't know what's going to happen. That was very difficult because I didn't know, especially after that injury, I didn't know if I was going to get hurt again. I didn't know what was going to happen. So I was very timid, whether it be leading up to a rodeo. I mean, not to say that I don't get nervous now, but it's like butterflies in my stomach now. It's more exciting. Back then, it was fear of getting hurt. I transitioned out of riding ranch bronc horses after that. I wanted to do something else, and so kind of going through all the events, I was like, well, timed event. I don't got the wallet size for that one.
Right.
Bulls scare me. Saddle bronc saddle is pretty expensive. It's like, I'll ride bareback. Bareback looks fun. I mean, looks real physical. But I love bucking horses, so I'm gonna try that. I had one of the stock contractors, they were putting on a rodeo clinic. And I managed to, one of my friends, he's like, I've got this bareback rigging that I'll sell you for $200. And I did, again, back to knowing nothing about bareback riding. I was like, cool, yeah, no, let's do this. And so I ended up buying that rigging from him, bought a glove, and didn't know that it needed to be set up a certain way. And so it was just a plain glove, not set up. And I was like, we're riding bareback horses now.
Right.
And so I get to this school, didn't know anything, and go to get on my first horse. And I was real nervous, but I was like, I mean, probably one of the worst things that could happen has already happened to me. So we'll just see what happens. And so I nod my head, chute opens up, and I immediately black out. Um, and so we're about 4 or 5 seconds, and I finally come to, and this horse is just spinning in a circle like a bull. And I was like, I don't necessarily like this. I'm just gonna let go with my hand. Well, it plowed me into the dirt face first, and I got up, and I was like, this is awesome. This is fun. I like this way more. And so that's where that kind of started. Um, I I then met some people at that rodeo clinic and got in touch with some guys, and they really helped me out. They were like, we're gonna get your glove set up. We're gonna get everything, get all your mechanics correct, so you can be successful in this. So cool. So I gravitated towards one guy that he just lived maybe 15 minutes away from me. He had a bucking machine, and so I was over there constantly getting on his bucking machine. He's a super good guy. He's helped out a lot of young kids before, and he he's more of a mentor for me. And then we just became really good friends. Um, and that kind of started my bareback riding. Um, with riding bucking horses, um, it kind of played into my mental health because I was always just so scared of the unknown. I was always nervous. Um, I always wanted to do good, but I was like, I don't want to look like a fool out here. Um, and so it it was rough the first probably couple years. Um, I think once the rodeo season in June started, I didn't cover my first horse until like end of July, beginning of August, and it was a lot of just telling myself not to give up because, I mean, you go to a rodeo, a couple rodeos a weekend, and you're getting thrown in the dirt at 4 or 5 seconds, and you're like, what do I do? And it's just, there's a big learning curve to it when you are, you can only control yourself. You can't control this animal, right? Um, and so it took me quite a while to um, get my nerves in check, clear my head, know when to flip the switch when it's go time, and when you can kind of just sit around with your buddies and just kind of do a little bit of BSing. So it took me quite a while to get that figured out, or at least find my way of figuring that out. Um, Once I had that figured out, rodeo changes at that point. What you'll hear people say is rodeo is 90% mental and the rest is in your head. It's such a huge mental game. There was rodeos that I would go to, and I was bucked off that horse before I even got to the rodeo. Um, I just was such a head case and would get in my head about things that as soon as I got on that horse, I was like, well, I'm bucked off. Um, once I flipped that switch, start making money, you start making good rides, and then rodeo becomes so much fun. So yeah.
So I've heard both Patrick and Fernando say that participating in, doesn't matter what event, but participating in a rodeo event is comparable or similar to an addiction. Would you say that's accurate?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Man, even when it's bad, it's good.
Right.
Yeah. When I talked about baseball being my first love, rodeo came right after that, and I love rodeo more than I ever loved baseball. Um, I don't know if it's just the atmosphere. I don't know if it's um, the friends that you make, the support that you have. Um, you kind of just almost feel like a superstar, even at these small rodeos. Um, I mean, I've been to small town rodeos where they pack the stands and they're loud, and they're right down on you, and you hear them cheering and yelling during your ride, and you're like, this was cool.
Right.
And so it's such a weird addiction. I mean, you see a lot of guys that they don't choose when rodeo ends for them, whether it be injuries, whether it be whatever. Rodeo will come to an end one day for you. And you see a lot of guys that can't let it go, and they will try to squeak out a couple extra years, and just because it's that addicting. I've never felt anything like that before, where it's just like constantly um, constantly there in your head, and you're like, wake up thinking about bucking horses, can't wait to get to this rodeo, no, right after that rodeo we have this rodeo. And just kind of the memories you make along the way is man, it's so cool.
So it's more than just the event itself. It's the entirety, the people, the environment, just the entire culmination of what goes into a rodeo is what makes it for you, not necessarily just the riding, right?
Right. I mean, the writing is a big part of it. There's this thing that happens for me when I'm about to get on my bucking horse. I get my rigging set, gloves getting taped on, and I'm crawling over the chutes, and I don't hear the announcer, I don't hear music, I don't hear the crowd. I'm running my hand in my rigging, and my mind goes blank. I might talk with the flank man or the guy that's heading my horse out, making sure that I'm good. If you talk to Fernando or Patrick, I'm very well known for pulling my hat down so far that you can't see my eyes.
Right.
And there's been several pictures because I I don't like my hat flying off in the middle of a ride, and so I will pull it down so far, and so I'll get ready and go and look out into the arena just to make sure everything's good. My pickup man, I've got a guy on the neck rope, and half the time I can't see.
Right.
And so I'll have to talk with my guy heading my horse out, and be like, am I good to go? They're like, yeah, you're good. And so just as soon as that happens and I nod my head, everything is blank. You really feel that horsepower coming out from underneath you, and man, it's better than any strikeout I've ever pitched. It's better than any baseball I've ever hit. Oh, it is an addiction unlike any other, I think.
Right. So, I mean, and it's got to definitely be an addiction seeing a lot of you guys get extreme injuries. I mean, there's guys that even have died in the arena, and it's like you still see all of you guys. You just can't get enough. I mean, it's. I would say from my viewpoint that it's comparable to an addiction of drugs.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Man, you make a good ride. They give you money for it, and they give you a buckle that you get to wear around. Like, yeah, and that buckle is. They'll never make another 2025 bareback riding champion buckle.
Yeah,
ever
one
again.
of one.
It's one of exactly. It's one of one. And so it's like, yeah, it's an addiction that, I mean, you go and spend $100 and then you can 10-20x that at these small rodeos in 8 seconds.
Right. Yeah.
And so it's like these guys, I mean, me included, I'm like, I can make that much money in 8 seconds. It takes me, if I'm doing leather work, how long to make, several $1,000s.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, no, rodeo. That makes sense to me.
Right. Yeah.
Like, yeah, I'll spend my last $100 and fill up my car to go to a rodeo, right? And with a possibility, I mean, it's gambling, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's an addiction. It's it's all these things. It's just, yeah, you can't get away from it.
Right. Yeah. So would you say, because I've noticed a lot that some guys in rodeo, they get all this money and then they're in like this superstar kind of a lifestyle, and then they end up just burning it all, partying and drinking. Do you think that's pretty prevalent within the rodeo community? Like, guys will get this huge excitement and, oh, I just won, let's go party, and then boom, all their earnings are gone. Have you seen that be pretty common?
I've seen that. It's the rodeo lifestyle like that, where it's smoking cigarettes, drinking beers before the rodeo, going to the bars after, has changed so much. Guys understand that they're doing this for a living, and if they want to win all that money, they're going to set themselves up as best as possible. I don't drink. I am in the gym 3 to 4 times a week. Being as me doing leather work, the money is not guaranteed. The money's definitely not guaranteed in rodeo either. And so it's, guys are really treating this as a career more so than this is what I'm doing in my 20s and we're just having fun, right? The fun will come. I mean, the fun's always going to be there, but you got to be smart with your money. And so, I mean, I see guys that they're like, no, I'm not drinking. I'm getting into the rodeo. I'm getting into the gym. I'm eating good. I'm setting myself up to make as much money as possible. And all these extras that are more of a distraction and it's not bettering me, I'm just going to push those away. Those are always going to be there, right? You can always go and have a beer with your friends once rodeo's done, right? And so guys are really pushing to making sure that they are in top peak performance, and just setting themselves up as best as possible to win money.
So it sounds like a lot of the guys coming into rodeo and that have been in it for a few years are treating it more like how I see NFL players treating it.
Right.
They're hitting the gym, they're doing recovery, they're looking into the science of recovery in rodeo and what they can do to better themselves. I personally, from what I've seen, I think you're correct in saying that these younger guys are veering away from the let's go party and spend this $1,000 or
Right.
$2,000 or whatever. So it is nice to see that guys are treating it more seriously and are very passionate about it. Do you think that rodeo is kind of a dying trade, like a dying thing? Do you think that it's still pretty strong? Because I see in the modern age with politics how they are, I see a lot of constant criticism of rodeo, ranch lifestyle. I mean, just anything to do with livestock in general. Do you think that in an entirety, the livestock industry is going to be safe to move forward for the next 10, 15 years?
Yeah, no, I think it's getting stronger every year. We've got more contestants coming in. We've got um, more money being put into rodeos. Like we see it every year. The money just they keep adding more and more money, and it's very attractive to cowboys and um, so especially with you see things like Yellowstone come up, right? Um, Whether you like it or not, it attracted more people to rodeo, attracted more people to the Western lifestyle, and it brings in more money for our culture, right? Um, People want to go and buy boots, they want to go and buy hats, they want to get those things and then go to the rodeo. Well, it's only bettering our community and making our community stronger. If we can get more fans, that means more money, right? It means more revenue. I think it makes everything much better.
So, with Yellowstone coming out and you being in leatherwork, did you see an influx in purchases of Western wear or wallets or any of the leather products that you make?
So, yes and no. The thing is with leatherwork, um, sometimes you have to do a little bit of educating to people. What you're doing is you're taking a piece of raw leather and you are turning it into something, right? You've got hours into it. You have material costs. You have this overhead, right? Um, a wallet or a belt that I would sell for $400. Sometimes people won't understand that there's a difference between what I'm producing and what you can go and get at like D&B Tractor Supply, right? And they're like, I don't understand why your belt is $400 when I don't necessarily see the difference in quality um, with the $50 belt at D&B, right? And so I found myself having to do a lot of educating, um, and the best way that I can think about it and explain it to people sometimes is how many belts have you bought from these Western stores that have broken down within a year, 2 years, if you're not wearing it a whole lot? Um, have the same belt the first belt that I ever made. I still have it, and it's all still in one piece. Um, there's nothing wrong with that. I could put it on today and go and wear it and get, I don't even know how many more years.
Right.
And I made that belt probably 8 years ago. Um, and so it was just seemed to be a lot of educating. There seems to be a very certain demographic when it comes to custom leather work. I mean, custom anything, right? And so the people that want custom stuff and they want something that nobody else has, um, they're always going to buy, right? I get stuff all the time, people wanting me to give them a quote on a wallet or belt, a purse, whatever. And, they're like, I didn't realize it was going to be that costly. Yeah, I've got X amount of hours into it. The leather is going to cost this much. Um, my leather on a belt before I even touch it costs just as much as the finished product at a store for a belt. Um, Not to mention the 8 hours that I have into it, the drawing of the pattern, the tooling, the $3,500 sewing machine that I bought. There's so much into it that um, people don't understand. And so with social media, I've kind of given people a little bit of glimpse into that. Like, okay, this is me starting a belt, and this is the pattern that I'm drawing. I'm drawing this pattern. it's going to have little things in it that I could try and create this pattern again, but it's not going to be exactly like this one. So you're really getting a one-off to anything when you're buying custom, right?
So it almost to me seems, and this coming from somebody myself that has played around with leatherwork, it's like an art piece.
Oh,
I mean,
absolutely.
it's like a painting. I mean, yeah, the painter didn't spend $700 on all the supplies, but between the supplies they paid for, the hours they put into it, I mean, your time's not free, and that's one thing people don't understand. That you're not pumping these things out of a machine, or you're not sending your designs to China. You're putting your hands on this yourself, and I
Right.
mean, you're using your creativeness and your ideas. This isn't, oh, let's go on Chat GPT and create a design.
Right.
So, do you think leatherwork is something that anybody could get into if they wanted to?
You know, I people ask me that, and I think yes, absolutely. I it took me a long time to get to where I thought things were looking good. Um, there was a um, there was this pattern that I was tooling during COVID years, 2020, 2021, something like that. And I was still using my same cheap tools. And I finished this. It was like a floral design of a bucking horse. And I was like, this is so cool. Well, last year I had a little bit of downtime, and so I thought, I'm going to tool this again um, to see the difference. Um, and I had purchased better tools at that point. I really started investing in my craft, um, and I tooled this and I put them next to each other, and I started laughing. I was like, I thought this was so good
Right.
4 years ago, 5 years ago. And then I put it next to this one. I was like, there's such a night and day difference.
Yeah.
Everything just looks better. Lines are straight, lines are crisp. And yeah, so I think if somebody has enough either patience or drive to want to do it, because I've never considered myself an artistic person. Um, Somehow I just figured out how to, hit some tools and some leather, and it looks pretty.
Right. Yeah.
And so, I try and I'll tell people, they're like, yeah, I'd like to get into leatherwork. Come over, let me show you. I wish I had somebody that I knew to show me when I first started out. I would have gotten to the point where I'm at way quicker,
Right.
and I wouldn't have had to go through um, those teaching moments. I mean, granted, they made me who I am today with leatherwork, right? Um, but if I didn't have to go through those, I would have spent less money probably. I would have had the right things to begin with. I would have had, you know, all these little tricks that I have now. Probably could have had them a lot sooner. Um, so I just like to offer that to people. I'll get you going in the right direction,
Right.
where you didn't have to or won't have to go through, the troubles that I had. Um, so yeah, I think anybody can do leatherwork, especially if I can. I mean,
Right.
people see me
Yeah.
write my name and they're like, man, you do leatherwork and it looks like that.
Right.
But when you sign your name, I'm like, I know it doesn't make sense at all.
You're like, hey, now you appreciate the pieces though.
Right? Yeah. Yeah.
So what sparked your interest in the leatherwork?
You know, um, I had won my first buckle at a rodeo, and I was following some leather workers on Instagram, and this one guy, um, I saw one of his belts, and I was like, "That's cool. I'm gonna get one of those." And so I messaged him, and I laugh about it now because prices have changed since 2019, 2018. And I I go, hey, how much would it be for just my initials on the tail here, and a belt like this? And I think he said like $300 to $350, and I was like, well, I can't afford that.
Right.
And so I was like, I found out that there was this leather store over in Boise. Uh, they sell more or less lower quality tools than what people that are doing leather work full time are buying. And so I went in there and I spent like $800. And I was like, well, we're gonna figure this out. I'm gonna make a belt. I'm gonna make some stuff. I could have bought 2.5 belts with the money that I spent there, but I had no clue what I was doing. I was just buying random tools at that point. And first belt I made took me probably 4 months, 5 months. I got done with it, and I was like, this is so cool. I've looked back on that belt because I've got it just in my room at home, and I'm like, wow, that is awful. I wouldn't show that to anybody.
Right.
But I was like, it was my first belt. I'm gonna keep it. So yeah,
it is a nice little token to keep that, to see your progress and how far you've come. I do the same thing with my photography. I look at the pictures I've taken 8-10 years ago and compare it to what I've taken now, and I'm like, oh God. Like
right.
the fact that I was even offering photo shoots within the first few years is just beyond me. I can't believe I was even doing that at that point.
Yeah.
But I mean, with leatherwork, that is nice in that industry because whatever you make, I mean, it's so sturdy that, I mean, your grandkids could have it someday and it'll still be usable. And that's another aspect of that people need to understand is the quality of the products you're using and how you make them. This is something you're going to be able to keep for a very long time. And I mean, you're actually going to be able to use it. It's not just to take it out to wear, when you go out to dinner or whatever.
Right.
Do you foresee yourself continuing to stay in the leatherwork trade, or do you think you'll veer off into something else to make your income?
I loved leatherwork as soon as I started doing it. I love having the creative freedom to be able to create things. It's very rewarding. Being able to work on something. I mean, you see something so bare bones. Okay, so we start with a height of leather. Okay, now we're going to cut this into some pieces. And I've done posts before where it's like, okay, here's the height of leather. Now I'm going to cut it into the belt, and then taking a picture once it's finally done and go, okay, this is where we started. This is where we ended. It's super rewarding to me. There's a lot of times where I'm like halfway through the process and I'm like, I don't know if this is going to look very good.
Right.
But you get to that end product and you're like, oh, okay, well, surprised yourself on this one. I mean, I do it all the time, and I don't know why it surprises me now. Typically I can see what something's going to look like before I'm done with it, but it's just that whole process of drawing it out, cutting it out, tooling it, getting everything stitched together. It has so many different looks to it as the process is going along that, it just makes it super rewarding in the end. And then, you sell those to these people that have custom ordered them and they finally get them and they're super excited about it. And, and that makes it good. That makes you feel like you're doing something right. And, people are loving your product.
Right. So I want to touch back on earlier, you brought up how Rodeo has helped with your mental health. What exactly has Rodeo done to be able to help you get over your mental struggles?
Man, there's been so much, and I was thinking about that today, and I couldn't really put a pinpoint on it exactly what has helped it. I don't know if it's just that I've become so desensitized to these stressful situations, or if it's just little things that I've picked up along the way that have really helped me with that. Um, there was, and I've struggled with mental health, man, ever since I can remember, but I didn't really know what it was, right? I didn't I didn't know what depression was. I certainly didn't think that I had depression, any sort of anxiety. I just thought that I was just, feeling down, whatever. Maybe I'm too sensitive of a person when it came to like getting my feelings hurt, right? So, um, I couldn't figure out why I always had these sensitive feelings. Um, and there, you talk to other people, they probably will be like, Austin's probably not really that sensitive. He's more of a class clown, gonna make some jokes, we're gonna smile a little bit around Austin. And he's so it's there was it came about in high school. I was being kind of a probably not my parents' favorite kid at the moment.
Right.
A little rebellious, little kind of I was just gonna do what I wanted to, go against their rules. Um, but I was in trouble just a lot, and it was you know parents kind of giving me the what for. Definitely deserved it.
Right.
Probably deserved more, to be completely honest with you. But I started getting into these weird mood swings, kind of just like sadness, and didn't know what to do with them. And so that obviously didn't go away because I wasn't working on myself to figure out why I was feeling that way and what I can do to prevent myself from feeling that way, um, or how to fix it when it came about, right? And so um, I was drinking right out of high school. I was partying and just kind of living a rebellious life. I was going to work, but as soon as I was off work, I was getting drunk, right? We were
Right.
hanging out with the friends. We were being doing dumb kid stuff, and it got into this spiral effect of um, okay, now I'm gonna drink because I had a bad day, and then it was dating somebody and they break up with you, or they say something that hurt my feelings. Well, I'm going to drink because of that. And I didn't realize it at the time, but I was just numbing that feeling, right? All those sad feelings, numbing it with alcohol. And in the time, it was fine. I got better. I was happy. I was, whatever. You drink a beer, get drunk, cry, whatever. And it was fine, kind of went away, right? Well, next time you wake up, it's right back there. That didn't actually go away.
Right.
You were just masking your emotions and feelings to forget. Um, and that followed me, um, man, to a point where it had gotten out of hand. Um, there was there was a time in my life where I didn't know what the right direction was. I didn't know what to do. I thought that you know I wasn't liked as a person by my family members. I didn't think that people really cared about me, and that made things worse. Having those thoughts, and then adding alcohol on top of that just intensified that 10 times, right?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I was at a spot in my life where I didn't really have a care to live anymore. Um, I was I kind of just let myself go as a person and didn't really hold any value in my life. Um, I was I had been dating this gal, and we ended up getting engaged. And you know, I didn't see the full picture of that relationship, the situation that I was in. Um, I definitely didn't put my feelings, or my mental health first, and it started to be crippling. Um, the engagement didn't last long. I was working for her dad, doing concrete work, and I had just kind of put my whole identity into that relationship, into trying to do, um, work for her dad to, at least give off the perception that I had my life together. I had, that would be good for his family and his daughter, and she ended up breaking off the engagement. And then the next day, I get a text from her dad saying, "Hey, we don't need you to work here anymore." And so I'm like, "Oh, geez." I think I was, 23 years old, something like that. I don't have a job. My fiance just left me. And it was difficult. I had no clue what to do. And I thought that I was at the lowest point in my life. I didn't have an answer. I didn't have a step of where I should go next, to fix anything. Um, and so I didn't care to live anymore. I went to the store, and I bought a case of beer. Um, Went to Walmart, picked up 2 bottles of pills, and I had thought about this for, geez, a couple hours. Um, and as I was driving back from the store, I called my mom, and she wasn't living maybe but 20 minutes away from me at the time. And she goes, "Hey, everything going good? You at work today?" I said, "No, not at work today." Um, She goes, "Well, what's going on?" I said, "I just wanted to call you, let you know that I love you." She goes, "Oh, I love you too, son. Are you sure nothing's wrong?" I said, "No, I'm good. I'm just tired. I'm gonna go home." I just went and picked up some stuff from the store, and she she kind of kept pressing the issue. She's like, "Well, do you want me to come over?" I said, "No, I'm good. Uh, I just gonna go home and go to sleep." And I ended up going home, and I just started drinking beer, and I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to fix any of this to make myself feel better. Um, and so I started drinking. I swallowed about 200 pills, and I was ready to be done. I had fully decided that I don't want to do this anymore. Um, a mother's instinct is, oh, I can't even explain it.
It's undeniable.
Oh, they get even the slightest thing, and it's like, no, we know something's not right. So um, I just remember the next thing was I woke up in hospital. From what my mom told me is, she knew something wasn't right, and so she came immediately over to my apartment at the time, and she found me laying there on the floor. She immediately called an ambulance. They came and picked me up, and I was in an induced coma for 3 days.
Oh my
Um,
God.
it was um, it was a crazy time, um, trying to deal with that, because here I am trying to be done with life, and you wake up and you see all your family around. Then the emotions hit, and they they knew. Um, I mean, as soon as my mom got there, she sees 2 pill bottles and a case of beer on the floor. She knew that um, I had tried to take my life. Um, and so all these emotions hit you as soon as you wake up and you see your family, and it's like, why did I try to do that? All these people that are here clearly love you. They clearly want what's best for you. Maybe sometimes it doesn't seem that way, but deep down, you've got family that loves you. Um, my I am a huge mama's boy. I think I have been since day one. And so my mom, she didn't leave me. Um, when I got hurt rodeo and she was there in the ICU, she was bringing me clothes. She was taking time off work, and she didn't leave me. Um, when I tried to take my life, I had sat in the hospital for, I think, 4 or 5 days, and she was there. And I just, you can thank somebody so much, and you can tell them that you love them, but words don't do it justice. It's the appreciation, the love, the um everything that I have for my mom and all of my family is, it just seems like it's not enough for them to understand of how appreciative and loving and, um, there for them that I will be, because they're there for me, right? Um, and so yeah, it was speaking with the doctor after that. He let me know that what I did was very serious. Um, and he was asking me questions. He's like, "Do you have problems sleeping?" I was like, "Well, yeah." Um, I was- he goes, "Well, what are you doing to help you sleep?" "Well, I'm drinking a case of beer every night.
Right.
I'm passing out at midnight, 1 in the morning, and waking up at 6, 7 o'clock to go to work." Um, he goes, "Do you have any history of mental health in your family? Any depression, anxiety?" I was like, "No." My mom perked up and she goes, yeah." She goes, like, she said, "My whole family struggles with depression."
Oh man.
And I had no clue. I mean,
Yeah.
it was never talked about.
Right.
Um, Nothing like that was ever talked about. It was, feeling sad, stop feeling sad.
Right.
It was just that kind of, the way that my parents grew up. It was the same way. It was, leave your emotions aside,
Yep.
and that doesn't work.
No.
It doesn't. It pushes them down, and then you fill up with all these emotions. Well, it's going to explode at some point. Um, and you are going to least expect it when it actually does. And so, um, I looked at her and I go, "What do you mean?" She goes, "It, my whole family does." She goes, "I've had family members that have attempted suicide before." And I'm like, "Well, why don't I know about this?" She said, "Son, it's hard to bring those things up." She says, it hits me in my heart knowing that, um, that I have family that didn't want to live anymore either. And she goes, it's difficult and emotional for me to bring that stuff up. Um, and she said, I didn't know how to. Um, so since then, man, my mom's always been there for my side. I've been to therapists and I've gotten help. I've learned to communicate because before it was just bottle everything up. It not helping anything, and then you finally get to that point where it's just too much, right? Um, I speak with my mom quite often. She's moved down to Texas and lives 28 hours away, but when we're on the phone for hour, 2 hours every single time, and we talk several times a week, um, and it's just opening up, and it's difficult at first. How, nobody likes to talk about their feelings or their problems, but in the long run, it's going to be so beneficial to you to at least get that out. I mean, whether you get advice or not, getting that off your chest for me was like a huge relief, right? It was you feel the tension leave out of your shoulders. You can breathe regularly. It's not, um, it it's just so beneficial to communicate. Now it's not always easy to do that. Sometimes you've got some stuff that's weighing pretty heavy on you. And so bringing those things up, it's, man, I've even still to this day, I'm like, I don't really do not want to talk about this. I don't want to talk about my mistakes or my troubles. Um, but I know I have to. And um, there's there's people in my life that they won't pry because they don't want that connection to be, something that's forced. Um, Now there'll be times where my mom will ask me. She'll ask me a couple times, and I'm like, no, no, no. Okay, finally, here's what's actually bothering me, and I feel so much better after. But it's you know, I'm not going to say I don't struggle with mental health anymore. I don't know if that ever goes away. But what I do is I'm constantly trying to better that. I'm constantly making sure I'm communicating my feelings. And it's such a stigma in rodeo where you don't really really talk about the things that have either hurt you or um, that are weighing heavy on you. I mean, it's the whole man up sort of
The
deal.
quote unquote cowboy up.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. Man, I think people would be so much better off if they just reach out to somebody,
Right.
talk to somebody. And it's going to be difficult. It's hard as hell sometimes, even for me. But I know I have to do it because I don't want to go back to that spot where my mom found me in my apartment laying on the floor, and I don't ever want to put my family into that position again. I've heard people have told me before that you tried taking the cowardly way out. And I know they don't understand, um, you know, getting to a point in your life that's so low that you just feel like you're better off and everybody else is better off without you in it. Um, Man, it's just that's not the case. Um, and so it's just being able to put that stuff aside, the whole cowboy up thing, the whole man up, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, don't talk about your feelings. You got to throw that stuff to the side. It's okay to be vulnerable. I mean, it's it's difficult. Man, there's times where I don't want to be vulnerable
Yeah.
and give that perception to people, but um in the long run, it's going to be so beneficial to you just to be able to open up, and you'll find that every time you do, it becomes a little easier and a little easier, and then you're communicating very well with people. Um, People are coming to you, and um, they're asking what they can do to just feel better in life, you know.
All right. So I know you said you're headed to a rodeo today. Where are you headed to?
So headed to Ukiah, Oregon.
Okay. What event are you going to be participating in?
I ride bareback. Ukiah is a fun little rodeo. It's one of our first rodeos of the year, and in the association that I ride in. It's kind of out in the desert. A couple years ago when I first went there, um, I didn't. They had just started this rodeo up, and so I'm driving around town trying to find it. I finally get on the Google Maps, and I'm scrolling through trying to find which road leads to it, and man, it's a cemetery road that right behind the rodeo grounds
Oh
is a cemetery.
no!
I'm like, oh, geez. But I mean, Ukiah, it's out in the desert, right? And so there's not a whole lot of trees, and it's a good little rodeo. Bucking horses are always good. It's a little bit of a drive, but it's worth it. They add some good money to it. They add a buckle, and they've got some fun events. And so, yeah, there's seems like this is the first big rodeo where everybody's going, all the ranch front guys, saddle front guys, bareback guys, and so yeah, get to see a bunch of friends today, and yeah, just kind of hang out with them for the first bigger rodeo of the year.
So is this the first rodeo you've participated in this year so far?
No, this is the fourth. Was in Cambridge to start off the year, then Whitebird over to Nissa. Now we're in Ukiah this week. Next week on the 4th of July, we'll be over in Haines. They put on a fantastic rodeo. Yeah, just a super fun rodeo for the 4th of July.
So how many rodeos do you think you participate in a general season?
In a general season, about 25 to 30. Now with Idaho being Idaho and Oregon, Eastern Oregon, kind of getting the weather that we do, our season is a lot shorter than, thinking about going down to Texas, where on Christmas Day it's 65 degrees outside and it's nice and
Right.
warm. We don't get that luxury, and we don't have very many indoor arenas, and so our season runs from May to October. You can run down to Arizona, Texas, and get on some bucking horses there. But ours isn't as long as other people's are.
Right. So what do you think your favorite rodeo is that you've participated in so far?
Man, there is a rodeo outside in Idaho City, and it's called the Jack Pine Roundup, and it is one, they pay very well. Two, you get on some really good bucking horses, and it's such a fun atmosphere. It's up in the pine trees. Announcers are super good. Yeah, it's just the dirtbag answer to that would have been any rodeo that I make the most money at, right?
Right.
But no, I've the last 2 years I've won the Jack Pine Roundup, and it's such a good rodeo. I just can't say enough good things about it. I mean, even rodeo like Haines, the Kuna Stampede puts on an awesome production. They've got a big screen. They've got They pack the house, 5,000 people every night.
Oh, wow.
It is so much fun. Good bucking horses, and the crowd gets into it. Um, it is it's a fun one to go to for just an amateur rodeo. It's awesome. They put on a massive, awesome production.
So what would a guy have to do to be able to participate in, like, say, because I know it is a bigger rodeo, but say like the Pendleton Roundup, is it like what is that, the PRCA? Is that what
Correct.
they're part of? Okay,
Yeah.
so you have to be ranked or, put through all the paces of whatever their standards are, right?
Correct.
How difficult is that?
Depends on how good you ride. I mean, no, you can get in. It's a buy-year permit. Once you fill your permit, you can get your rookie card, and then that really opens up once you've hit these qualifications of X amount of money won. Then you open up the floodgates to all these rodeos that will let you in, especially these bigger rodeos, and so it it can be done. I mean, there's so much competition up there. I mean, all over. A lot of new young guys coming in that are just tearing it up. Um, so yeah, it can definitely be difficult. It can be taxing on your body. It can be taxing on your finances. A lot of travel, a lot of time away from home, but um, it definitely will pay off in the long run.
So you definitely got to make some sacrifices then.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Not just physically, but I mean, like you were saying, financially, there's more aspects to what goes into it than most people realize. They think you just show up and hop on and it's over. But no, it's from everything I've heard from you, Patrick, Fernando, other friends that are in rodeo. There's a lot to it. And I'm glad, that there has been shows that like Yellowstone and some of these other shows that are shedding light into a lot of it, because like this interview we're doing right now, this is good for shedding light onto an industry that people don't necessarily get to peek into all the time. So I mean, you guys coming on here and talking about these things is helping educate people more and further the rodeo industry, and like you were saying, strengthen you guys. And I think with these interviews that possibly locally we could make a difference in, maybe getting more rodeos going, more throughout the year. So is there a few pieces of advice you'd like to give anybody who wanted to get into rodeo?
Man, I would definitely say go about it doing it the right way. And obviously you don't know what you don't know, so you don't know what's the right way and what's the wrong way. I help coach at a rodeo school with the Tri-State Rodeo Company. I've been doing that for 3-4 years now. I can't thank them enough for how they've helped me, and man, just giving back to them. I go there, volunteer my time, and I've got a couple of guys that went to the rodeo clinic this year, in April, May, that I'll see them at the rodeo tonight, and it's they went about it the right way, but it's go to a school, learn from people that have learned the wrong way and learned the right way, and have figured out their own way. The way I kind of learned was I just went in and got on, and it developed some bad habits. It's a lot easier to start with good habits than try and break bad habits. So going to those schools, and just in the rodeo community, guys are very willing to help out. I just, on the way over here today, I had a Sal Bronc rider message me, and he goes, "Hey, I need to borrow a cinch tonight. Do you have an extra one?" Absolutely. We don't even ride in the same event. And guys are just, I know somebody would be willing to do that for me. I got friends that are going to help me tonight, you know. Um, Fernando, I would grab Fernando at every rodeo. Hey, come help me pull this rig in. Absolutely, and then I'd be right there for him. The the companionship that rodeo has with our athletes, man, it's just, I've never had it in any other sport, and we're all competing against each other, which is wild, right? I we say we compete against each other. We have to compete against our horse before we can even think about. I have to do my job on this horse before I can even look about seeing how I'm going to how the dominoes are going to fall against him, right? Um, I I've I'll call guys and be like, "Hey, you had this horse last week. What did it do?" And they'll tell me. Where it's such a big family that everybody's willing to help out everybody, and it's it's just camaraderie that I've never had before in any other sport.